Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of State Archivist Christopher Davidson, I want to welcome you to Archives and Genealogy Day 2021. I am Deputy Director Kayla Barrett, and we have an exciting program planned for you today. And we want to thank our co-sponsors, the Friends of Georgia Archives and History. A little housekeeping before we begin. We will have a brief question and answer session at the end of each presentation. If you do not have the capability to use the chat feature, please raise your hand and you will be unmuted so that you can ask your question. And the raise hand feature is up on the top menu bar. It's the smiley face with the raised hand. So just go to that and there will, if you hover your mouse over that, there will be icons that will appear with the raised hand, and just click on that to raise your hand. Now to begin our first presentation, Tamika Strong will be speaking on Turning Lemons to Genealogy Lemonade, Researching During the Pandemic Tips and Tricks. Tamika has been a reference archivist at the Georgia Archives for nearly 4 years. Prior to coming to the Archives, Tamika was an IT program manager with the Georgia Public Library Service. She previously had over 12 years experience with DeKalb County Library System. She graduated with a BA in African American Studies from Emory University and a Master in Library and Information Studies from the University of Pittsburgh. Tamika also has a Master of Archival Studies from Clayton State University. Tamika?
Thank you, Kayla. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, Penny, can you confirm that you can see the slides, please?
No.
Oops. No.
There you go.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. As Kayla said, my name is Tamika Strong. So if it says Allison Hudgins, my colleague's name at the bottom, I apologize. It's a bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to keep it moving right along. So, lemons to lemonade. Researching during the pandemic tips and tricks. So we know it has been a tough year and a half, almost 2 years for us. And so many of us, this seems to be a time of uncertainty about a lot of things, but there are a few things that we can be certain of. There are a few upcoming events. We know that the holidays are here. Thanksgiving, not Merry Christmas, but Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. And these are typically times that you get together with your family and friends. And as genealogists, this is a great time for us to work on gathering more information from our family members for our genealogy. So with that in mind, there's also another big event for genealogists that we are really chomping at the bit about, and that's the 1950 census that will be released in April 2022. I'm not going to touch upon this because our next presenter is going to give you all the information about what you can do to get prepared for this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you prepare for some other things so that we can lay the foundation so that you will be prepared with all of your existing information for the 1950 census. And as I said before, this is a time of uncertainty. We have some repositories that are fully open. There are some that are partially open. There are some that are not open at all. There are some that have a lot of resources that they put online. And there are other institutions like Family Search that recently completed digitizing all 2.4 million reels of microfilm that they have. So this is, some would say, a great time to be alive. Some would argue and say that no, it's not. But we're here, and one of the reasons that we are gathered here today is to talk about how can we turn these lemons of uncertainty into genealogy lemonade. And in order to do that, there are 3 things we need to do. We need to do some prep work. Before you start a journey, you typically get prepared by doing research and some other things, and that is still true for a genealogical journey. You need to learn the lay of the land. We're going to learn about how you can learn about the various research locations that you have for your ancestors. And last but not least, hopefully we can learn something new. So before we get started, first things first. My colleague was joking earlier about my presentations and how I always give homework. So this is going to be no different. And so before we get started, I really want you guys to think about one research state or a county. Because if you're like me, I have several counties in Georgia. So I want to focus on one particular county. I want you to select one surname, select one family group, and one focal ancestor. And you'll understand this better as we go along in the presentation. Because I really don't want to overwhelm you, because if you've been doing research for a very long time, the information I'm about to share will overwhelm you. But if you take it one piece at a time, it will be more feasible and more doable. All right? So the prep work, documents. The most important thing is to know what you have. As I was working on this, I turned and I looked at in my office with all my notebooks and everything. And so I was cringing when I wrote this, and I also have to practice what I preach. So I'm planning to do these exact same things. So I definitely don't want to give you guys things that I myself would not do. But this work that I have listed here is very important. This helps you to know what you have. You want to know what type of information you already have with the existing documents that you have. You definitely want to cite your sources, because the last thing you want to do is to find this great piece of information, but oh my gosh, you don't know where you got it from. So citing your sources is very important. You want to thoroughly read through your documents. A colleague of mine always teased me about not really thoroughly reading the census records. At one point, I would just focus on the left side, and that's the side with the name of the individual, their age, their sex, their race, their marital status. I would get so far as their birthplace. I would not go all the way to the right. So what I had to force myself to start doing was to slow down and thoroughly read these documents, because the information that's on the right side of that census record is just as important as the information that's on the left side. And so, additionally, you want to analyze the documents. Have you gone through your existing documents and gleaned all of the information that you can from them? Another example was, I was looking at a death certificate, and death certificates pretty much are the same year after year. So you feel pretty confident that you have gleaned all the information. But one day I took the time to sit down and actually transcribe the death certificate. And I actually found that the question about how long a person had been living in the area was actually answered on this document. So now I have not only their death date, but also possibly a starting point as to when they started living in the city. And had I just gone through and looked at the document like I usually do, I would totally miss that. So thoroughly reading your documents and thoroughly analyzing them are two very important steps to knowing what you have. So once you go through all this process, you want to record this information, and you want to compile it on pedigree charts, family group sheets, and timelines. And citations, of course, you want to cite your sources. And with these three documents, you actually want to cite each piece of information so that you'll know exactly where you got it from. And I know citations can be a pain, believe me, that's one of the things that I hate as well. But it's a necessary evil, so to speak, because we need to know where we got the information from, especially if we're trying to retrace our steps or we want somebody else to come behind us and find exactly what we found ourselves. So this is an example of a pedigree chart. For those of you who've been doing research for a long time, you may be familiar with it. For those of you who have not done it, maybe you have not completed one of these, but this is one of the foundational forms. For genealogy, it allows you to capture all of your direct ancestors. And so it pulls together information from various documents into one place. The second document is a family group sheet, also called a family unit chart. This provides information that the pedigree chart does not. This provides information about the children that were born to the husband and wife or mother and father. And so this provides more detailed information about a particular family unit. And so remember when I asked you to think about one family unit, one focal one individual, this is the chart that I had in mind when I thought about that, because you really want to have one of these for every unit that is on your pedigree chart. And so that's one of my goals this year as well, to try to have one of these represented for each couple. And so one of my favorite resources is the Midwest Genealogy Center forums. And the reason being is because they have the fillable PDFs. So if I were to go back, I'm sorry, you see the blue boxes? This lets you know that this is a fillable form. So in every place that has the blue area, blue shaded area, this is the area where you can type in information. And so you can type in information, you can save it, and then you can actually reopen it and go back and add more information or correct it, however you need to. And so the resource that is that I like to use is Midwest Genealogy Center, and I think they may be one of the only places that has these. But this is a screenshot of their website, and so you can simply just Google Midwest Genealogy Center forms, and it will bring up this page. And here is the 6th generation chart, pedigree chart, ancestor chart, different names, all the same chart. They have a 4th generation one. They also have the family unit one. And there are some other forms that might catch your eye, like the individual worksheet. But the two that I'm most interested in are the top 3 there. So hopefully you'll be able to utilize that for your own family research. Lastly, timelines. I'd like to introduce you to my grandfather, Mr. Henry C. Hoppy Maddox, and he was born 1920 and 1988. He died in 1988. And I like utilizing timelines even as I assist patrons here at the archives, because it gives me a frame, a skeleton to work with. It also provides me with a census checklist. So if I wanted to look at the census records, this time frame gives me that information about which ones I'm looking for. So for him, I'm looking for possibly 1920, depending upon when he was born, 1930, 1940, and soon I can find him in 1950. But I also know with him being a male, the World War II draft cards, that's definitely a time frame that I want to list there as well, so I can find that record. I know off the top of my head, he was married in 1966, and of course he died in 88. And so this was just a quick and dirty timeline of his life, because there are some other things I have not included. He was married twice, so I only have one married date listed. I know he was divorced, so I don't have that date listed. He had at least 6 children. Oral history states that there may be other children other than the 6 he had with my grandmother, so I need to include all of those dates. He served in the military, so he fought in World War II, so I need to add that information. He was also a business owner, a homeowner, and an entrepreneur. So I'm gonna be looking for business records and possibly some deeds for his house that was purchased. And so this actually helps me to figure out the information that is not listed, things I may want to add, and eventually I do plan to add citations to this. So this basically just gives me a framework. And so it kind of helps to pull together in one place, just like the pedigree chart, the family group sheet, and the timeline is for an individual, and it also can be used for a family unit. But for this example, we're using my grandfather as the individual so that you can actually see the important dates of his life. And also with these timelines, you can also see migratory patterns, and we'll see that a little bit later on. So, homework, if you so choose to do it. I would advise you to create, update, and or add citations to your pedigree charts. Create a family group sheet for each couple represented on your main pedigree charts, because we may have several, but the main one should start with you as number 1 and follow both your parents, well, your father and mother's lines. And so if these records do already exist, go back and review the information on them and update it as needed. And of course, add citations. For that focal or troublesome ancestor, you want to create a timeline, because sometimes timelines can also help you break down brick walls because they show you more information that you may have overlooked at some point during your previous research. And of course, citations again, I know you're probably tired of hearing that C word, but citations are very important. And at some point, you may want to create a master list of records so that you know what records you have for the individual and the family group. So all of that work is a lot of work, believe me. I'm still cringing at doing it, and I know it's necessary. But it's a necessary step in order for you to take the next step, which is to determine the times and locations that your family members lived in certain places. Well, the time and location in which your family lived. And so two of the most important factors that we're gonna ask for instance, if you call us and you let us know that you're looking for a death certificate, we're gonna ask you 2 questions. What year and what location? Because those 2 things really determine a great deal about records availability. Why? Because municipalities began to collect records at different dates. For instance, the state of Georgia as a state started collecting birth and death records in 1919. However, Atlanta, Savannah, Macon, Columbus, Gainesville, and some other cities started collecting them in the late 1800s. So if a particular county, say for instance, Thomas County, you had an ancestor born in the late 1800s, there's not going to be a record for them. But if the individual was born in the city of Atlanta in the late 1800s, there's a possibility that there may be a birth or death record. There are record loss events, courthouse fires. The most recent one we had in the state of Georgia was in 2014 in Hancock County. And so knowing those dates is very important because there may be records that were lost, but then also some records over time become missing. So you knowing the dates and times, the times in which your family lived in a particular location will help let you know whether or not you're looking for a record that does not exist. Additionally, you want to think about creation dates. The state of Georgia didn't stop creating counties until the 1920s. So essentially boundaries change all the way up to that point, and they're still changing with annexations of cities and creation of cities. So you have to pay very close attention to that, because your family could have sat in one spot for the last 100 years, but because of boundary changes, you may have to go to 3 different counties to find their information. And again, dates for vital records is important because based on the location, that will determine whether or not a vital record exists. Then also laws. At some point, you may want to look at the laws that govern the creation of those records and the enforcing of those records during the time in which the record was created. And so laws over time change, and so you actually have to go back and look at some of the older laws so that you can have a better understanding about the records that you're looking at. And again, record loss events, courthouse fires, explosions, natural disasters, those type of things are also important. Additionally, we're living in a digital age. And so time and location can also determine whether or not that record is in a physical format or is it available digitally. Is it a federal record? Is it a state record, or is it a local record? And who holds it? Is it at the state archives? Is it a one-stop shop where you can come here and get county records, state records, or do you have to go to the actual county courthouse to receive that record? Is it still with the state agency or the county agency? Does the local libraries have it? The public libraries, special libraries, academic libraries? Does the local archive have it? Does the Historical and Genealogical Society have it? Or is it in the last place you think to look? Because we migrate, we being humans migrate all over the US, records that were created or about people who lived in Georgia could actually end up in California. And so with the age in which we're living in, you can actually find that record because somebody, an institution who holds it may have digitized it and made it available for wider access. So we've already talked about some of the tools to help create, to capture the time and location. Pencil and paper is as simple as that. The timelines, the pedigree charts, the family group sheets also help. 3 resources that can help you find some of these dates are the CDC Where to Write for Vital Records. You can just Google that and it provides you with the beginning dates, the statewide beginning dates for the death and birth records. But again, caution, when you're looking at big cities, you may want to double check with the cities to see when they started collecting those records. The Red Book is another resource, and we're going to talk about both them and the Family Search Research Wiki a little bit later. So to apply what we just learned, this is my second great-grandfather, Mr. Okeefe Collins, on my dad's side. He was born in 1914, died in 1979. He was born in Warren County, Georgia. He lived and died in Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia. So I know 2 locations in the state of Georgia of where I would need to find information about him. And so this is a more detailed listing of his census results. So I know up to at least 1941, based on the records that I found, he's still in Warren County, specifically in Norwood. But like I said, he died in 1979 in Atlanta, Fulton, Georgia, Fulton County, Georgia. So I can just sum it all up with this slide here that shows his timeline in between those 2 counties. So I know up to possibly 1950s, not really sure, he was in Warren County. So I know up to that point, for records related to him, I need to look in Warren County. But after that point, up to his death, I need to look in Fulton County. And those things are important because each county offers different records. Like Atlanta, if you're doing research in that city, there's city directories, there's African-American newspapers, there are multiple repositories that I need to check. There's the courthouses, and there's some other things. So those are the kind of things you want to keep in mind when you kind of create this kind of profile for your individual. And so when you're learning the lay of the land, you definitely want to take a look at all of these institutions that are listed on the screen. The State Archives is always number 1, regardless of the number of states that you're researching. For each state, you need to check out the State Archives because they have a wealth of information listed on their website and in their vaults. So you definitely want to take a look at them. Maybe the county that you're researching, some of their older records are at the county archives, which is the case in Morgan County for me. So you have to reach out to that particular institution to gain access to those records. County courthouses, of course, don't disregard the public libraries. Again, with Morgan County, on their website, they have a marriage database that has been very beneficial and helpful to my research. So definitely want to take a look at the public libraries in the research area. The same with the academic libraries. If a person lived in the city of Atlanta and their family was buried by a Hangley funeral home, the Rose Library at Emory University has those records. So that's definitely a place that they want to look. There are other research repositories, and you definitely want to reach out to the genealogical historical societies in that area so that they can help you. Either they may have a collection or they may have individuals who are researching in that same area, and also museums, because there are specific museums in certain locations that could possibly help you with your research. So this is the webpage for the Georgia Archives. So of course, hopefully if I have a few minutes at the end, I'll do a shameless plug for our YouTube channel and invite you to take a look at some of our previous programs, because we have a great deal of great information that's listed there. But you definitely want to take the time out for whatever research institution that you're visiting or planning to visit or would like to. Take some time to go through their website. Get your beverage of choice, sit there and just spend some time with their website, because during this pandemic, a lot of institutions have been doing a lot of work on the back end to provide greater access to more material. And so one of the other resources, favorite resource, is Family Search's Research Wiki. This is it has a plethora of information. Like if you notice in the middle of the screen, it tells you there are more than 97,000 articles. That's a lot of articles, and it's about a little bit of everything. They have record types, they have location guides, they have information about breaking down brick walls. Anything that you could think of, you put in this search box, I'm pretty sure you'll find something that will help you. But the Research Wiki is also a great resource, like I said, for location guides. So if you're interested in Morgan County or Warren County or Fulton County and you wanted a little bit more information about that location, this is one of the resources that you want to look at. And again, going back to libraries, we're very fortunate with GPLS offering a public library directory. So if you're researching in the state of Georgia and you're not sure about what public library serves the community, your research location, you can come to the public library directory and you can search by library system, but you can also search by county. So knowing the county is very important because a lot of resources are organized by county and by the cities. And so you can go here, and of course this is a screenshot, so I can't actually do anything, but you can do a county search and look for the library that serves your research location. I also have the Red Book. And this is available full text on the Roots Web Wiki. So if you were to just Google Red Book, American State, County, and Town Sources with Roots Web, you should get it as your first search result. And this provides more information about the various resources available on the various levels. So definitely want to take a look at that and spend some time looking through that resource. So to bring it all back together, so my surname is Collins, my locations are Warren County, Fulton County, Georgia. Of course, Georgia Archives, and I'm of course biased, but definitely want to come to the archives because we really are, in some cases, a one-stop shop. And so you can come here and get access to records from all over the state and also other states as well. And so the county courthouses, county courthouses, I'm gonna look at, of course, the probate and superior courts for both of the counties. The public library, so it looks like I have two library systems. I have the Greater Clarks Hill Regional Library, which is the regional, Warren County is a part of this system. And the reason why I have this listed is because Warren County may not be the main branch. And so with the regional systems, the main branch is usually the only library that has microfilm. And so you definitely want to know what's the main branch and you want to go to your county library. And so for Fulton County, there are actually two that I listed, Central being the main branch, but also Auburn Avenue Research Library. Auburn Avenue is a special library, research library on African American culture. And being an African American with African American roots in the city of Atlanta, this is definitely on my to-visit list. Academic libraries, I mentioned Emory University, but also Georgia State University. They may also have some records that may be of interest to me. Atlanta History Center, the Keenan Research Center is a great place to go visit and do some research because they also have resources related to Atlanta. They also have like the city directories and some other resources, as well as yearbooks, believe it or not. So. And there are two societies that I definitely want to take a look at. OGS, Metro Atlanta chapter, is the African American one, and the Georgia Genealogical Society. And with both of these societies, you definitely also want to look at their quarterlies or their journals that they put out, because some of their members have done research, and it's possible that they've done research in your research location. And so that could also serve you well. So of course, more homework. So using your pedigree charts, family group sheets, etc., you want to create a list of research locations and surnames in each location. Based on that information, you want to kind of create a time range for your family in that research area. You want to create a list of various repositories in that research area. So this is going to take a little bit of work, research yourself. So sort of kind of like the list that I created, you want to go ahead and create like that skeleton list so that you'll know which websites you need to go visit, because that's how you will learn more about what those repositories and institutions have available that may be useful for your research. Last but not least, you definitely want to learn something new. You may be just starting out, or maybe you have been doing research for a number of years. But the thing with genealogy, especially in the time in which we're living, things are constantly changing. So what may have been true last month may not be true this month. What may not have been there on Ancestry Family Search last month, it may be on there this month. So you really want to try to stay on top of that and keep learning something new. And so here is a listing of some of the things that you can, some of the resources you can utilize to learn something, like repository websites. Again, going back to Georgia Archives, we have a YouTube channel where we have posted programs, past programs, but there are other institutions like North Carolina and some others that actually have informational videos on how to use their repository. So you definitely want to see if the repository that you're planning to visit has a YouTube channel and you want to go visit that channel. Ancestry and Family Search both have channels. Like if you only have 5 minutes, one of the things that I like about these resources is there are such things as 5-minute finds. 5-minute finds, kind of hard to say. But if you only have 5 minutes to dedicate to learning something new, check out one of those videos. And some of them are, you know, webinar length, like an hour, 2 hours, but there are some that are like 15 minutes. So it doesn't really take a lot of time to learn something new. You definitely want to check out the local genealogical societies and libraries because they are offering free webinars. Like GGS actually has one coming up on tax records, if I'm not mistaken. So check out their website, GGS or Georgia Genealogical Society, and it's coming up soon. But then one of the other resources that I enjoy is Family Tree Webinars. They have new webinars almost every day. And the great thing about them is they offer it for free for a week after it is done. But then after that week of being free, they put it behind their paywall. But they also have a series of free webinars that anyone can take a look at any time. So definitely check out Family Tree Webinars. Then of course, going back to the Research Wiki, you want to spend time looking at, you know, the articles that are there, research types, research methodology, and some other things. And last but not least, and of course there's so much more out there to learn, I didn't want to overwhelm you more so than I probably already have. You want to start taking a look at some of the digital collections, like the Digital Library of Georgia. We have the Georgia Historic Newspapers, which is a part of DLG, and they have digitized newspapers. So maybe that newspaper that you're looking for that you can't go to the public library or go down to UGA to see, it may be digitized and on their website. You may just have to go take a look. Digital Public Library of America is a portal of digital collections across the U.S. And so again, like I said, there could be possibly Georgia-related collections sitting in institutions, you know, 1,000 miles away. And so this is one resource where you can search to find those collections to see if any of that would be useful for your research. Then you have HathiTrust, which is a place where a lot of books are digitized. And so it's another resource to go to because maybe you can't get to the institution, but maybe you can check HathiTrust, Internet Archive, and even Family Search to see if that book that you need for your research is digitized and available for free on the web. And so you may ask, why am I going to do all this work? It's a lot of work, believe me. I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm going to do it because I want to personally refamiliarize myself with my documents. I really don't know what I have, and that's maybe the case for you as well. You may discover some new record sets, and like I said, Family Search has finished digitizing 2.4 million reels of microfilm. That's a lot of information that is now on their website. It may not be indexed. It may be browsable, but it's still there and accessible to you from home for free with your account. So you definitely want to take the time to take a look at those websites and find out what's new. It helps you create it helps you create a plan of attack because a lot of these on-site repositories, we are open, but we may have an altered schedule. Like the Georgia Archives, we're open from 9 to noon, we close for lunch, and we reopen at 1 and we close at 4. So that's technically only 6 hours that you have to research on site. And so when you come, you really want to have a plan of attack so that you can utilize your time very efficiently and wisely while you're here. And then you'll be able to focus your research more. And then last but not least, you can increase your knowledge about the repositories and the resources that are available for your research area. And so hopefully you guys will take this information and apply it to your own research if you so choose. I'm here if you have any questions. I am available. So let me close this out. I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see you guys. So are there any questions. Wow, I got finished faster than I thought. Because I thought it was going to be a long time. I was hoping I wasn't going overtime. So we have no questions?
What is your email address? Can you see the questions, Tamika?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And there was one hand raised. Please show the last slide. All right, so I'm going to go back. Okay. I actually want to change this, so give me 1 second. I want to change how it looks. It's not going to let me see both. Let's see. All right. So in this screen, I can't see the questions, so if there are more questions, Penny, if you can just call them out, that would be great.
Sure, we have Sylvia, you have your hand raised. I've unmuted you, so you should be able to speak. Sylvia?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Will this session be posted later on YouTube? All of these sessions today, will they be posted later for?
Yes.
Okay.
They will.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And Yvonne, you had a question? Yvonne, can you hear us? Okay, let's see. You should be unmuted. Maybe we've lost Yvonne.
Do you have a download of your presentation in PDF?
No, I don't. But because it's going to be uploaded on our website, you'll still have access to it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Either, type them in the chat or raise your hands. Tamika, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you see genealogy as a lifetime endeavor?
Yes, it is. There have been people who have been researching for 30 years, and so there are some brick walls that are hard to overcome. And so it's one of those, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And so it really depends upon how much detail you want to go into. And then also with the age in which we're living, we have access to a lot more records than we did before. I remember having a conversation with one of my now retired colleagues, Linda, and she talked about how before Ancestry and Family Search offered keyword searchable, well, keyword searching for the census, it took weeks, it took months to find individuals in those records. And so hopefully the researchers now are appreciative of the efforts that people have made to make these more accessible and keyword searchable, because before you had to sit at a microfilm reader, the ones that crank, so you had to develop your arm strength and spend all of that time trying to find the answer to one question. See the chat?
Yeah, in the chat you see, let's see. Do you know if there are any records related to Central Railroad employees?
Is that Central Georgia? So, Kayla has a follow-up question.
Is that Central of Georgia Railroad?
Yeah, it says Central. Well, the question is, do you know if there are, here we go, records related to Central Railroad employees?
Yes.
I think check Georgia Historical Society. I think they are the ones who have Central of Georgia Railroad records. I don't know if that would include employees. If you find in their finding aids that they have Central of Georgia, Does that sound
I
right?
think
Yeah.
that's right.
You would need to contact them to see if they have the employee records.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We have another question. Does the Digital Library of America have a database of newspapers from North Carolina?
That's a good question. So I'm gonna go, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
So DPLA has a very funky looking URL, it's dp.la. And so you can actually search it. They have a browse by topic. They also have the general search box. And so if we type in maybe newspapers, North Carolina, you can see what they have available for them. But then also you may want to look at, and this is just me adding more, Chronicling America, which is a resource done by the Library of Congress. And so they have what's called the U.S. Newspaper Directory. And so they also have some digitized newspapers as well, so you can take a look at that. But this is a place where you can actually find newspapers based off by state, by county, by city. So if we do, for instance, North Carolina, and we just do like Beaufort. And so we can click search, and that gives us 63 search results. And so one other key thing about this directory, and this is probably more than you asked for, but there you go. You can actually search by ethnicity. So if you were curious to see if there are any African-American newspapers in the state of North Carolina, you can click that, click search. Looks like there were 85. So sometimes you may not know if there was a newspaper in that particular place. You can use this to help you identify that. But then also you may want to look for the North Carolina Newspaper Project. So a part of the Chronicling America came out of the result of a newspaper project that Library of Congress did around the U.S. And so every state has a home. And so it looks like the state archives, North Carolina State Archives, is the home for their newspaper project. So again, that goes back to the whole idea of the state archives being possibly a one-stop shop. So you definitely want to go here and see what newspapers they have available and to see the ones that they have on microfilm versus the ones that might be digitized. And then you can also contact them to see, because this says it right here, some newspapers are available through Digital NC. So you can take a look at that, but then there are others that may be a part of where we just were, Chronicling America.
Or check that guide to newspapers on microfilm at the state archives because some may not have been digitized.
Right, so you definitely want to come to this website to see what they have, see what's digitized on Digital NC, see what's available in Chronicling America, and see what's on microfilm at the state archives. So that just enforces that idea of going to the state archives to see what they have, because like I said, it could be a one-stop shop. Okay.
Travis Allen, you have a question? You should be unmuted. Travis? If Travis may have left us, let's see if we have any more. Okay.
Show this if we don't have any more questions, just really quick about our website. And so I keep talking about YouTube, and I wanted to show you exactly what I was talking about. So here on our website, we have the YouTube link, which will take you to our YouTube page. And so if you want to learn in general about the archives, here's a short video. But then we also have our Lunch and Learns and some other videos on conservation. We have our Fourth Fridays. We have our various events. And so I'm going to do a shameless plug because one of the resources you definitely want to look at is the virtual vault. I'm trying to find.
Should be that further. So,
Yeah, let's do videos. So we have a beginning basics of genealogy. That's one of our previous programs. So it's 6 hours. That's pretty long, but you can take a look at that. But then, of course, there's this one that was our quote-unquote first one, which, of course, there's a commercial. But this is the first one that we did. And this one talks a little bit more about how to find, how to use a virtual vault for genealogy. And of course, I taught it, so of course, shameless plug. But that just illustrates the fact that there's resources on our website that can help you with learning more about the services that we have. And then additionally, under research help, here we have an online research guide that talks about the vital records for the state. And so under birth records, of course, we have the State Vital Records Office information, but we also provide you with information about pre-1919 birth records. And it's organized by the locations, and you have to read the blurb about it so you know where to go looking for it. And there was, at one point, an attempt to do vital records in 1875, and some counties did participate. So if one of your ancestors lived or died during this time, or was born during these years, there may be a record. And additionally, going back to the big cities, as you can see, Macon, City of Macon, 1891, Savannah, 1890, City of Atlanta, 1896. These are the birth records. And so if you have ancestors that may have been born in these particular locations, you definitely want to contact these repositories to see if they have the records for your ancestors. And last but not least, under visit is programs. Again, this provides you with information about upcoming programs, as well as some links to some previous ones, including some of the handouts and slides from some of the other programs. So maybe there was a handout that went along with the Lunch and Learns, and this is the location of where you would find those. But then I also like to highlight our online exhibits, because my colleague Allison has done a lot of work in curating these and has pulled together some great resources. So if you're like me, you have trouble reading and interpreting some of this early handwriting, this may be a good resource for you. Or if you're just curious about the Georgia Archives and what we've done over the course of 100 years, this is definitely something you want to take a look at.
Oh, we have some more questions, Tamika.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good one. All of the work you have completed, once you've done the genealogy, who gets the work you've done when you're departed?
That's a very good question, and that's an important question that you want to consider. You may want to reach out to some local repositories in your research area to see if they are open to taking donations. Publish. You definitely want to publish. You definitely want to publish, if not a book, definitely put something online or in a journal so that it will be captured someplace. But you definitely don't want to do all this work and it just, when you go, it goes with you, so to speak. Because we know that when people pass away, some of the first things to go are some of those papers that they don't want to take the time out to look through. And if my office is like it is now, when I die, with my husband already knows what to do with my stuff. But if anybody's office is like my office, it's a lot of stuff to go through. And so they're like, I ain't got time for this. I'm going to throw all this stuff away, not realizing this is important documents for their family. So you really have to consider that. But there are articles and blog posts online about what to do with those. So you can do a Google search and see how to prepare for what to do with your stuff before you depart this life.
We have a hand up. Sylvia Cordell, can you, I unmuted you. You should be able to share your question.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I have a relative who died, according to the census records. He must have died between 1900 and 1910 because in 1910, his wife is listed as a widow. Unfortunately, he lived in the area of Sumter, Georgia, which, according to what you're saying, they don't have any death certificates for that area. So what should I do? Should I just assume that, I mean, people died and no one kept records of it?
There are some records, but
How would I go about finding it?
newspapers might be one way to go. Church records is another way to go. So you have a 10-year time frame. That's a lot of time for newspapers. But if you can try to narrow that down, that might be helpful. Did he own Tax Digest is another one.
Pardon me?
Tax Digest.
Oh, Tax Digest, right. Okay.
Did he own land?
I didn't see where he owned land, but I think back then, this was back in the early 1900s, I guess, everyone had to pay a tax based on what kind of property they owned when I looked that up. So
Right.
I didn't see that he owned land, but you had to pay for something that you had.
Right. Hence Kayla's response about the Tax Digest.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so if there are no further questions, I'm going to turn it back over to Kayla. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. I do have a question. Is Katie Nelson one of the attendees? I just don't see your email. Is Katie here? If Katie, you're here, can you type it in the comments or raise your hand? No, I don't. Okay. Thank you.
We have a few minutes before our 10 o'clock presentation. If we want to take a little break, get up and stretch. And if Katie has not joined us yet, our next presenter, that will give her time to log on and get settled before we start again at 10 o'clock. Is that okay, Penny?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, we'll meet again at 10.
Penny, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're going to rearrange the program here. We have a little technical glitch. Tamika, I want to thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting and informative. Great job. Thank you again. We're going to now have a presentation from Allison Hudgins. Allison is the reference manager at the Georgia Archives. Before working at the Archives, she worked at the Cobb County Public Library System and at Mercer University Special Collections while she was a student. Allison has a Master of Library and Information Science from Valdosta State University, and her presentation is entitled
Georgia County Records.
Thank you, Allison. Sorry, we're a little rough here. So, Allison, take it away.
Okay. All right, so let me get my presentation up here. There we go. All right, so you guys should be seeing a slide with the county courthouse there. Okay, as Kayla said, my name's Allison Hudgins, and I'm the reference manager at the Georgia Archives. I'm going to be going over some of the basics about Georgia's historic county courts and the types of records that these courts produce, especially those records that are useful for family history researchers. So first, let's take a look at the basic structure of the Georgia court system. At the top, we have the Georgia Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. And then below these, we have some lower trial courts. Now we're going to be focusing on the Superior Court and the Probate Court, as these are the two courts that are most often going to be generating the types of records that we use for family history research. Now the Superior Court has, since its founding, been called the Superior Court, but the modern Probate Court grew out of two other historic courts. And this was the Court of Ordinary and the Inferior Court. And I've got the dates for each one up there. We're going to go over and cover briefly what each court handled and when they were in operation. Now we'll start with the Superior Court. Superior courts were established by the 1777 Georgia Constitution. Now they handle serious criminal cases, divorces, records related to title of land, and cases over equity. And equity is the money value of property in excess of claims, liens, or mortgages on property. And Georgia is divided into Superior Court judicial circuits. If a circuit was made up of multiple counties, then judges would travel around the circuit in order to hold court at least twice a year in each county. Notices would be run in local papers announcing the beginning of terms. On the right here, we have an announcement from 1918 in Houston County, which gives a little information about how many cases would be heard, and it also lists the names of the jurors. We're going to come back and cover some of the records that each court handled. For right now, we're going to switch over to the Inferior Court. This court was created by the Judiciary Act of 1789, and it administered county funds, oversaw the support of the poor, maintenance of roads, bridges, and ferries, regulated enslaved persons, handled estates, and issued marriage and other licenses. This court also heard some civil cases, but keep in mind that not all civil cases were heard by this court. Some fell under the jurisdiction of the Superior Court, such as cases involving title to land. Now, in 1851, the Office of the Ordinary was created for handling estates and also for issuing marriage licenses, while the Inferior Court still handled a lot of the other county business. In 1868, the Inferior Court was abolished, and their powers were given to the Courts of Ordinary. The Ordinary became the chief administrative officer for the county government, and they held a great deal of power. Aside from the duties that the Ordinary inherited from the Inferior Court, the Ordinary also held jurisdiction over lunacy cases, that is, declaring somebody insane and appointing a guardian for them, and also for recording apprenticeships.
Now, a constitutional amendment changed the name of the ordinary to probate judge in 1974. At the time, there was a debate over if the ordinary should be licensed to practice law. The amendment ultimately did not end up making this a requirement for all counties. It's only counties with a population greater than 96,000 where a candidate for probate judge must have practiced law for 7 years and also be at least 30 years of age. If you're interested in learning more about the history of the courts in Georgia, you may want to take a look at The Creation of the Judicial System by Erwin Surrency. This book goes into a great deal about the jurisdiction of the courts and the context around their creation. We have a copy of this book in our reference library here at the Georgia Archives, and we refer to it quite a bit when we're looking at county records. Okay, so we'll take a little bit of a turn here and talk about some of the records created by these courts and then what they can tell you. So again, we'll start with the Superior Court. We're going to take a look at deeds, divorces, criminal and civil case files, and Superior Court minutes and what each of those can tell you. So this is a copy of a deed here, an excerpt. Deeds in general are going to tell you the names of the buyer and the seller and give you a description of the land. In this case, we're looking at a deed that was recorded in 1872, where Samuel Wilburn is purchasing 3 town lots in the city of Jonesboro. The description of the land reads, all those tracts or parcels of land situated, lying, and being in the town of Jonesboro, Clayton County, 3 town lots, numbers 24, 25, and 26, containing in all 3/4 of an acre, more or less, and part of land lot 241 in the 13th district of original Henry, now Clayton County, and better known as the Morrow property, with the exception of the land that the Calaboose, which is a jail, stands on, and that is reserved till it is moved, and then it belongs to the said Wilburn. Now, you may not always get this amount of information in a deed, but it's worthwhile checking. The description will at least give information about the boundaries and give you the lot and the district number if it's land that was west of the Oconee River. Now, divorces are also recorded in the Superior Court. You're going to find them also in the Georgia laws from 1793 to 1833. After that, the legislature decided they didn't want to be dealing with that. On the left, we have an act to divorce Walter Billingsley and Jean, his wife, formerly Jean Watson. And then below that, you see the dates that it was read in the Senate and in the House, and then the dates that the act was passed. Now, you can also check Superior Court minutes or case files to document divorce cases. The Georgia Archives holds a collection of Superior Court civil and criminal case files for some counties. Some of these have name inventories published on our online finding aids. That's what we're looking at here with Jasper County. Over on the right-hand side, you see that we have a list of each of the parties included in the case. If you are going through our finding aids and you locate a case that you would like to see, you can request the file and view it on site at the Georgia Archives during our regular research hours. These case files are only available in original format, and they're not available online at all. And case files can include all sorts of interesting records. Here we see a warrant for a criminal case for Coleman Dorset from Jasper County, who was charged with keeping open a tippling house, which is a place where alcohol was sold or drunk in violation of the law, on the Sabbath day in 1871. And this is a petition from a civil case in Crawford County made by Octavia Ziegler and her mother against Green Culver House. This was in relation to a case over the estate of William Ziegler, who was a slave owner, and he died and left a will in 1854 in Crawford County. In the will, he directed that the children that he had with Mary, one of his slaves, were to be taken out of Georgia and freed, and that each child was to receive $30,000 when they became 21. And until that time, a trustee would administer the trust. The trustees changed over the years, but by the time of 1869, when this petition was being made in the Crawford County Superior Court, Octavia and her mother charged that Culverhouse was not paying the interest of the sum to Octavia as he was supposed to, and he would also not give any account of what he had done with the money. Now we see here by 1875, the court has found in favor of Mary Ziegler and her 3 children, Melinda Ann, William Henry, and Octavia, against one of the other trustees, Ewell Webb. Now, while case files are full of great information, you don't always need them in order to document a case. What we're looking at here is an excerpt from the Crawford County Superior Court minutes. Now, some counties have very detailed minutes. They list a lot of information about a case, testimony given. Other county minutes are very brief, and they just give the bare bones of the case and the verdict. Now, another way that you may be able to find Superior Court case files is if a case was heard by the Superior Court and then later heard by a higher court, like the Georgia Supreme Court or Court of Appeals. The Georgia Archives holds case files for both of these courts. For example, this is a brief from the 1910 murder case, which was heard in Chatham County Superior Court, in which J.C. Hunter was convicted of killing his estranged wife and then 2 other women at the house where she was boarding in 1909. The Archives doesn't hold criminal case files for Chatham County Superior Court for this time period, but because this case was heard by a higher court, in this case the Georgia Supreme Court, we can find copies of lower court documents in the Supreme Court case file. And in this case, they go into great detail. You get actual testimony from a witness. Now we're going to switch over from Superior Court to Probate Court, which is also called Ordinary and Inferior Court. We'll take a look at some state records and a marriage record. When people think of estate records, they're oftentimes thinking of wills. And wills can give you a lot of information. For example, you might get the location of land of the deceased, or before emancipation in 1865, you might get the names of slaves. You may also get the names of family members and their relationship to the deceased. All that said, keep in mind that many people died without having made a will, even when they had property. Now, don't despair if there's no will. If they had property, you can still check for other types of estate records. So here we have a guardianship record up there at the top, which lists the minor orphans of the deceased and names their guardian. This is from Okeefe County guardianship record from 1828. Below that, we have a widow's or year's support. And this lists the property available for the support of the widow. And in this case, it names minor children. This is also from Okeefe County. This is 1908 that we're looking at. The inventory and appraisement gives you a list of the deceased property and the assessed value. This record that we're looking at is an 1804 inventory of the property of the doctor in Savannah, which includes the names of enslaved persons. They're at the top. And then below that, you can see there's other household goods listed with their assessed value. Some other useful estate records include annual returns, which track the actions during the year taken to settle the estate. Administrator's records, which names the estate's administrator. This is really useful because a lot of estate records will only be indexed by the administrator's name rather than the deceased name. Vouchers and receipts can be useful as well because you get the names of heirs as they're signing off on that they received their share of the estate. Okay, leaving estate records, we're going to switch over to marriage licenses. Georgia marriage licenses will list the names of those getting married, the names of the person who married them, the dates of the county where the marriage took place, and that's about it. While it's not as much information compared with marriage records from some other states, marriage licenses can be extremely valuable for tracking women through name changes. So let's talk about how to access these records. The places to look for these records depends on a lot of factors, but very broadly speaking, if county records were recorded before 1900, then you're going to find them either on FamilySearch.org or on microfilm at the Georgia Archives. If the records were recorded after 1900, then they're probably going to be only accessible at the county courthouse. There are, however, some major exceptions to this. So our first exception is courthouse disasters. Georgia County has experienced many courthouse fires, floods, tornadoes, and records may not be available for some locations and times. If you're having trouble finding something or you're seeing a lot of gaps in record coverage, then there may be a courthouse fire to blame. You can find the listing for disasters on the first card in our card catalog, and these have been scanned and made available in the virtual vault under County Records Microfilm Index. Or you can also check out Paul Graham's book, Georgia Courthouse Disasters. And I've got an excerpt from his book down here in the lower left, talking about the Burke County record losses, which are considered some of the worst in Georgia. Another exception to this rule is that in a few cases, you'll find county records that were recorded after 1900 that are available on microfilm at the Georgia Archives. So in this case, Clark County marriages from 1805 to 1956 are available on microfilm at the Georgia Archives. If in doubt, check the Microfilm Index card catalog to see what's available for the county that you're interested in. And you can also call or write into our Ask an Archivist online web form if you ever have questions about how to access specific records. In a minute, I'm going to show you how to get to this card catalog in our virtual vault. Now, your first stop for a lot of the county records will be FamilySearch.org, which is a free website. Most of the county records they have scanned are not name searchable, but you can still get to what you're looking for if you know where to find it. And I'm going to play a little video now that shows you how to get to these records. So this is FamilySearch.org. You're going to go to Search, and then Catalog. It's automatically set up to do a place search. So we're going to put in Georgia, comma, and then the county name, and it'll sort of fill in. We're going to select Online, and then we'll choose the category that we're interested in. In this case, probate records, and then we're going to go look at some estate records. Then you get listings for individual types of records. You click on the camera, you'll log in if you're not already logged in. And then you get scans, which is basically the same as what you're looking at on microfilm. Most books have indexes in the beginning, so you can look at the name index, get that page number, and then go down to the page that you're interested in. The nice thing about FamilySearch is that their scans are really high quality. In some cases, they're better quality than what you might be able to print from a microfilm machine. Okay, so we're going to continue on. Now we'll take a look at an example of records that aren't available on FamilySearch. You see on FamilySearch on the right that their Gilmer County deeds start in 1846. However, there are deed records available before this. On the left is a copy of the Georgia Archives card catalog showing the same records. Highlighted in orange are the deed records beginning in 1833 and then going on to 1846, which are available on microfilm. The portion that's highlighted in blue shows the area, shows what's available on microfilm and on FamilySearch. So if you needed to look at deeds in Gilmer County recorded before 1846, then you could access it on site at the Georgia Archives in our microfilm library. Make sure to bring a flash drive so that you can save to that for free. Alternatively, you can print from microfilm for 30 cents a copy. You can find the microfilm by using our card catalog, which lists the physical drawer and box numbers where you'll find it on site. And before you visit, you may want to check to see what's available. We're going to see another brief video here about how to get to that card catalog so that you can check the record coverage anywhere that you have internet access. This is our main page, georgiaarchives.org. You're going to go to the virtual vault. This shows you some of the different collections we have. Go to page 2, and you want to go to County Records Microfilm Index. You scroll down and there's a drop down where you can select the county that you're interested in. And hit search. And then click on the title and then click on the blue expand arrow. And that's going to open up the card so that you can scroll through and see what's available. It's going to start out with ordinary or probate court, and then down near the bottom, you're going to get into superior court. Okay, so remember I said you could access those early Gilmer County deeds on site at the Georgia Archives? In this case, you have another option as well. At the Georgia Archives, we've been scanning some of the film that's only available on site here and putting it on our virtual vault website. So for those early Gilmer County deeds, for example, you can now access them online in the virtual vault. And we'll play another short video showing you how to get to that collection. So you're in the virtual vault, and you're going to go to page 2. And instead of clicking on the index, this time you're going to go to County Records on Microfilm. Again, you've got a drop down with the counties. We're going to go to Gilmer. And then you've got those early deed books that you can look at. The way these work, you've got the index there on the right. And you've got the page numbers. If you need to make it bigger, you can click on the blue expand arrow. Once you've got your page number, go to Contents, then go to your page number. Click on the blue expand arrow, and then you can see what we have scanned from microfilm. So I hope this has given you a few ideas of the types of records that you can find, which court produced them, and where you can access them. Again, if you have any questions about how to get to a specific record, you can give us a call at 678-364-3710, and that number is posted on our website. Or you can write to us using the Ask an Archivist web form, which is also linked from the website homepage. Thank you very much, and I'll pause now for any questions.
I don't see any questions right now, Allison. So you can either type your questions in the chat. Oh, here we go. Raise your hand. Let me allow Mike. Michael, you have your mic is now activated. Michael? You're unmuted now.
You did not mention what you can find in other things that you can find in court records. For example, in the Superior Court records, you can find admissions to practice law, and that can give incredible information occasionally. For example, I just found in one case where the minutes state that John Smith, whoever, would get his license, but the clerk shouldn't give it to him until June the 11th, because that's when he would turn 21. So he got his birthday. Other things like naturalizations records for any court of record, and grand jury minutes, their suggestions, their mentions. For example, I've seen descriptions of and dates of floods and where they occurred, tornadoes and other things, whose barn got damaged and all of that, all kinds of records. Even in one case, I've seen descriptions of the 4th of July celebrations that took place on the courthouse grounds and named people who gave toasts, and you can find all sorts of other things in some of those minutes.
Yes, minutes are incredibly useful. If we can't find something, we go to the minutes in a lot of cases.
Okay, let's see. Marie, you should be unmuted. Okay, here we go. Marie asks, have the deed records for Bibb County been indexed? Thank you.
Can you tell us what time period you're thinking of? So I can target my answer a little bit better. I'll go ahead and show you where the indexes are. Let's go to, let's see. Okay, so you should be seeing Chrome. I'm going to go to Family Search. If you're talking about before 1900, you know, what's available on Family Search or the Georgia Archives microfilm, yes. So we're going to go to Catalog. We're going to do our Play Search again. We're going to go to Georgia, Bibb. Online. And we're going to go to Land and Property this time. And Deeds and Mortgages. And here are the indexes. And you can get to these online just like you could on microfilm. They have, in this case, grantor and grantee, so buyer and seller indexes. And then you can click on one of these. Just these are for the surname, so you figure out what surname you're interested in. Click on the camera. And then here you've got the indexes for the grantors and the grantees. You find one you're interested in, and if the date looks right, make a note of the book and the page number. That's your deed book and the page number within that deed book. Sometimes you get a description of the property. Sometimes they're not very specific, but sometimes you do get the land lot and the district. So once you've got that book and page number, head back to this screen and then go to the individual deed book that you're interested in. And then you can go right to that page number. And find the deed that you're interested in. If it's after, in this case, 1908, then you may have to go to the Bibb County Courthouse, the Superior Court, and check their records.
Okay, let's see. We have someone else. Let's see. Let me unmute you. Marie? Okay, you are now unmuted, Marie. Go ahead and ask your question. Marie, did you still want to ask your question, or would you rather type it in? You've been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It was just a comment.
the handwriting always appears to look like calligraphy. It's just amazing that long ago that most of the writing, and I've looked at several documents in the archives, and it's just a calligraphy look about the writing, and I'm just amazed.
Yeah, we see a lot of different handwriting. Some of it's beautiful and some of it's real hard to make out.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
We have a question. Is the buyer referred to as the grantee and the seller as the grantor?
Yes, the seller is the grantor, and then the person receiving the land, they're the one buying it, they're the grantee.
Okay, let's see if we have some more questions here. All right. Taylor? It looks like Taylor has a question.
A comment, every deed index, every county is just a little bit different. Some are in better shape with their indexes, some are in better shape than others. Some have more detail than others. Some are in great shape and some are pretty rough. And every deed book should have at least a grantor's index at the beginning of the book, and sometimes it's just easier to go to the grant book index than trying to navigate the general index. Also, some of those deed indexes are referred to as a direct or a reverse index, and direct is the grantor's index and reverse is the buyer's index. So just a comment there.
Any other questions, either in the comments or if somebody wants to raise their hands and answer them? I don't see any other questions, Allison.
Okay.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
Just thinking about the deed indexes, I will mention one other thing. If you find an index that is just, you can't work with it, there are certain counties where the large general index, it's in very bad shape. Yes, you can, if you know the date, more or less, you can aim for the book, the individual deed book that you're interested in. I found in a few cases, if you go to the Superior Court's website, they have deed indexes more often for modern deeds, but Houston County in particular has digitized a lot of their early deeds because their index was safe. And I see why they did that.
Guys, I want to thank our presenters, Tamika and Allison, for their presentations. And thank you for joining us today. And we will have their presentations available on our YouTube channel. Tamika, were you going to say something? Okay. And again, thank you for joining us. And we hope that next year we will be able to host Archives and Genealogy Day in person. Penny, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, this will be, we're going to upload this to our YouTube channel. So one way to really know as soon as possible what we're uploading is to subscribe, and it is free. That's it, but thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.